And 3, 2, 1.
Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Yippee-Ki-Yay,
Low energy
MotherPodcast.
George Bush.
I hope this one doesn't bomb. What's going on, MotherPodcasters? I guess that joke did bomb.
Oh,
All right.
Ralph.
Enough with the bomb jokes.
you got a million of them.
That made
Tip your
a
waiters
cat
and waitresses.
pop out of Drew's ear.
So apparently, Ralph, I guess Chris didn't watch the film this week.
I think he did watch the film. I think
Oh.
you're being hard on Chris. He had an engagement in Baltimore.
Ooh.
Oh,
Prior
I heard he
engagement.
likes it hard.
yeah. I want to
What?
apologize because Ralph and Chris get together on weekends and stuff. So Ralph's very defensive of Chris. So I totally get that. That's cool.
I'm defensive of my whole team.
No,
You know how many times I have to defend
at all?
Do you have any idea how many times I have to defend you? So just get over yourself, okay?
Now
All right,
I know
so
you're making that up because you.
I don't know
did
if you
on
can tell by
purpose.
the
I kind of
jokes,
believe that.
but tonight's film is Drew's film, and Drew decided to bring Oscar-nominated Oppenheimer to the
Yes.
table.
Yes.
So we'll talk about Oppenheimer. Then we will do a little of What'd You Watch? And then we will spin for the next movie because now all 5 of us are on the wheel again for the next film.
All right.
After
All right.
Indian film we're going to do next week.
Oh, so the
Yes.
Indian film is next week.
Next
Yes,
week. Remember the
definitely
what's
ganja.
Sean, what is
Death
the
and
sequence?
ganja.
Sean, what is the sequence?
2 American, 2 spins, and 1 Indian film.
Well, 2 Yippee-Ki-Yays and 1
And one
Indian, because we
Indian
may
film.
not do American films
That's
on
true.
Yippee-Ki-Yay.
Yeah,
We
that's
spread our
true.
wings a little bit. You
Like
could even
today
bring
we're
an
doing a
Indian
British
film on
film,
Yippee-Ki-Yay if you want to really throw a monkey wrench in. All right.
Doom 3.
Passage to India.
That's right. So, Drew,
Help. The Beatles help.
this
There
is
you
your first time seeing an Oppenheimer, right? You did not see it in
Yes.
the movie theater.
I
Okay.
did not get a chance to see it in the movie theater.
that's
I wore
surprising.
my pink shirt and went to Barbie, and then I didn't end up getting a chance to see Oppenheimer.
Okay.
So I was very happy with my choice. Not that I thought Oppenheimer was going to be bad. I'm not the world's biggest Christopher Nolan fan.
Well, you
And
like
honestly,
Tenet.
yeah, I love Tenet, obviously, but Tenet, I was actively glad I hadn't seen it in the theater because you couldn't understand so much of the dialogue,
Yeah.
and I really couldn't even follow half of the story. And then Christopher Nolan recently said you're not supposed to understand everything in Tenet, so congratulations.
Thanks for getting me off the hook on that one, Chris.
But this movie does not have those problems. This movie has a number of other problems. But I watched it on Peacock. I have a nice setup. I watched it very loud. The story of Oppenheimer is the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer. J stands for nothing. And he's known as the father of the atomic bomb. And if you didn't know anything else
stepfather.
about his life and the creation of the atomic bomb and the Manhattan Project and the part of the Manhattan Project that was at Los Alamos and the use of the atomic bomb, if you didn't know the details and the people or anything like that, I don't know that you'd really be able to learn that much about it from this movie because it throws so much at you for 3 hours. And Christopher Nolan said something like, I cast familiar faces in as many roles as possible so people would be able to tell them apart. And I'm like, well, but I mean, if you don't know who Feynman is, who Lawrence is, who Niels Bohr is, and I don't know all these people, then
Niels
it's
Bohr
like,
had a very large head in real
yes,
life.
he did. But like, I can tell that's Kenneth Branagh, that's Jack Quaid, I will say, I went, is that Josh Hartnett? Because apparently he got a little thicker, but he didn't age. And so the movie is basically 5 or 6 timelines it jumps between of Oppenheimer's life as a young man, starting to study physics and become a great theorist of quantum physics, through when he was teaching in America and met his wife and started his family, and when he was running the Los Alamos labs, through when he lost his security clearance in the mid-50s, and then in the late 50s when the man who made that happen lost his confirmation battle. And there is some incredible acting in the movie. There's some really incredible performances. I don't have a problem with it getting a lot of Oscar nominations because there's a lot of amazing craft going on in the movie. And Robert Downey Jr., it's like you forget. I mean, he's so entertaining, but he can act,
Yeah.
and he's very good as Strauss in this movie. But everybody is good in this movie. I think that the way that the story is told is very frustrating, and I felt like I was watching a montage of trailers for the movie for the first half an hour, because it was like I couldn't decide, and I don't know if the movie decided this is the main timeline, this is the main part that we're looking at, and then everything off of this is a flash forward or a flashback, but it just kept flashing around. The one thing I did love wholeheartedly was the music. I think the score is incredible, and there's a piece when Kenneth Branagh, Niels Bohr, says to him that algebra is like sheet music. It's not, can you read the music? Can you hear the music? And so there's a piece called "Can You Hear the Music" that is one of the most glorious pieces of film music I've ever heard. So if Ludwig Göransson wins the Oscar for that, I'm fine with that. But I was very curious to see it. I didn't mean to miss it in the theaters. I suspect that some of you guys will say things like, you missed out, you should have seen it in IMAX, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's probably fair. But it was not, I didn't love it. I had a lot of specific problems with it in terms of the way it told its story and how it told it, which we'll talk about as we go through. But I'm glad that we took a look at it for this week, because I have been wanting to watch it.
Oh, I'm very surprised.
You didn't say anything about Cillian Murphy. What did you think about him?
Oh, well, I thought he was very good. He was very skinny and intense, and he sort of gave the J. Robert Oppenheimer vibe of all the pictures and footage I've seen of him and everything. I think the way that the character is written and then scattered across the movie, I feel like I have less of a sense of who J. Robert Oppenheimer is from this movie.
That's fair.
Than I would have liked.
No.
He feels like, a real person and who's wrestling with real things, but some of the stuff, it's like they just tell you, he's arrogant. I mean, he seems a little arrogant. He's a womanizer. Yes, he had sex with 2 women, stuff like that.
Wait a minute. 2?
Yeah, 2. Not at the same time. It's the 50s, or the 30s. But I don't think I got as much of a sense of him. I have a clearer sense of who Strauss is, who Robert Downey Jr.'s character is. I have a clearer sense of Groves, who was the general that Matt Damon played.
It was very good. Matt Damon was very good in this.
He was very good. No, there's a lot of great performances in it. Creepy
Maybe
Casey
want to watch
Affleck was good
Batman
in
and
one
Little
scene.
Boy that Paul Newman was in and played Groves.
I like that movie.
I thought of that movie, and I never saw there was an Oppenheimer miniseries with Sam Waterston, like in 1980 or something. I would track that down and check that out. He's he's an interesting character. I haven't read the book either, and I understand that the way that one of the authors of the book died of cancer. I don't think from radiation, but he died of cancer in 2021, so he didn't get to see the movie. But the other author saw it, and he said when he saw the movie, he realized that in the book they had talked about the confirmation hearing in 1958 where Strauss was not confirmed as Commerce Secretary, and he said we never looked for the transcript, and Christopher Nolan tracked down the transcript, and that's how you have that scene where Dr. Hill, played by Rami Malek, that's actually what happened.
Really?
He is the one who delivered the speech that torpedoed once and for all Strauss's, well, really his whole career in government. And so the man who wrote the book literally on J. Robert Oppenheimer, that is the basis of the movie, said that research for the movie went even further than we did and discovered something that becomes a very dramatic part of the movie. If you can feel the drama of it, because you're not like I felt like I kept getting kicked out of the movie because it jumped around so much.
And it's the Rami Malek scene. For me was a false note. It felt like it came out of nowhere and it was like exposition, and it just seemed too perfect. But I'll say this: I saw it in the movie theater, and found this second viewing at home much more enjoyable.
Really?
And what I'm trying to say, the problem I had in the movie theater was the music was so loud. The volume of the, as always with him, the audio track is so loud. So you're having these, I think we mentioned this before, but you're having these scenes where 2 people are talking, specifically in that that trial or whatever it was, where he's in
the
there
Great
with,
Commission hearing where
Jason
they took away
Clarke, where he and
security
Jason
clearance.
Clarke are having a conversation at the end, and that music is playing like it's a dramatic cliff fight scene, or one of the scenes from the Lord of the Rings that we're doing. Like it's just 2 people talking, and and that level was insane. So at home, that's tamped down a little bit. So now I can really concentrate on the conversation. And I love movies where people are talking, especially when it's well written. Plus, I was able to keep up with your what you were saying is you're jumping all over the place, which is true. It's definitely jumping. They're using the black and white. I kind of felt like that was a bit of a cheat because the black and white was used for what's going on in the present, which is the confirmation hearing. Except they also use it for that meeting that he had around the table where they're talking about the hydrogen bomb, which took place in the past. So they were jumping a little bit, and I was able to keep because I had seen it already.
Related to that storyline, though.
What's that?
It was related to that black and white storyline because isn't that where he like insulted him?
No, he insulted him at another hearing about the shipping of the isotopes or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that was at a hearing.
I mean, the original insult was whatever he thought he said to Einstein.
Yeah. Albert.
What was that? What did you say to him? Oh, he's fine.
Which is
Strauss,
kind of
Which they tell you at the end of the movie what was said.
right.
Yeah, you
but
weren't talking
Strauss,
about him
that
at
was
all.
the original
See,
upfront.
I thought maybe I'm remembering it wrong, and there was at least one scene that didn't do what I'm about to say, so maybe I'm wrong. But I thought the black and white was more objective when he's not there, and all the color is subjective from J. Robert Oppenheimer's point of view. And I learned, this is kind of crazy, and I read some of it. Nolan wrote the screenplay in first person, which you just don't do. And so he really wanted the whole movie to be from, what he saw as Oppenheimer's perspective. And I think that's how he used the color, because most of the black and white, when I think of it, is either the Senate hearing that he's not at, or Robert Downey Jr. and Alden Ehrenreich talking in offices, in between sessions. Alden Ehrenreich, apparently the only fictional character in the whole movie, as like an aide.
But that's the confirmation hearing, right?
That's the confirmation, which is that's not the latest that it goes, because the whole thing at the end where Einstein says they're going to give you a medal and all that kind of stuff, and it's not for you, it's for them, where Emily Blunt doesn't shake Teller's hand, which is a good scene and everything. But I don't know. It's hard to know. Christopher Nolan, he makes these choices that are really decisive and distinct choices, and sometimes I don't need it. I don't get it. I'm not sure why you needed to go that way.
Yeah, second viewing, I was way more satisfied than the first time.
I'm surprised that you didn't like it the first time, being the Nolan fan you are.
You didn't say you didn't like it.
No, I'm talking about Ralph.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Nolan fan. I mean, there's certain.
You were. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I hated Tenet, and again, if he's telling me not to pay attention, I wish he had told me that before, because I was trying to keep up
Got to
with
save
the
some
thing.
money.
Well, he did say that in the movie. The woman, the scientist who's trying to explain it to the protagonist, says something, and he's kind of like, huh? And she goes, you just have to feel it. And
but I missed that because 3 scenes earlier, I'm trying to figure out how they're running backwards and what the hell is going on. And, now I've
They
lost.
should have done the Austin Powers thing, where it's like, it's just a movie, or whatever.
Yeah, turn it. But no, I loved Interstellar.
Oh, yeah.
Memento, which I hear he's remaking, which I don't understand.
What?
Yeah.
He's
IMDb
remaking
says,
Interstellar?
No,
No,
Memento.
Oh, Memento?
Yeah. What else has he done?
Well,
The
'cause he wants to
Batman's,
do
of
it. He wants to spend $300 million doing it this time.
Well, he did Inception. He did The Prestige.
Yeah, Prestige I loved. Right,
Prestige and Interstellar are my favorite Nolan movies.
Me too. But
Which is
again,
great.
my point is, my second view on this made me also go, wow. I've been really pushing Zone of Interest as the Academy Award winner.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be Oppenheimer. I mean, there's no way. It's so big and it's so bright and it's so. I don't think it'll win the audio mixing. I think Zone of Interest should get that
please.
one. I mean, just the soundtrack.
Yeah.
But I loved my second viewing. I thought it was. I just loved it. I was able to concentrate a little bit more on what was going on in his head during that little trial he was dealing with, and really what it was about was him just sticking to his guns about, we have to let everybody know what we're doing so that we don't. So which is what's happened is we just keep building, and it's eventually going to kill everybody. I thought the second viewing was much better for me, seeing it at home. So I'm surprised by
Well-
your reaction, Drew. I thought you would be.
More into it.
It's not a history lesson for sure, right? Because like you're saying, it's his perspective.
Well, if you want to know what's going on as far as like who is this person and what does it mean, and all this kind of stuff, you have to Google on your phone while you're watching the movie.
Yeah,
I
And
Googled
but it's
it.
also his
definitely-
wife's
That definitely
perspective.
takes me out of it.
That
It's also
scene
what?
in the trial where Pugh is on him naked in the trial.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
her.
that was
That's what
that was really needed.
In the committee room. You were talking
In the
Yeah,
committee.
in the Gray Commission. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
I didn't.
That's,
I thought that's a scene. I was like, this is.
I mean,
Wh-
it's
what is
over
this?
the top, but
Is he crazy? Is that why this is happening?
No,
He's
that's
invisible?
her. That's the wife's view.
Well, he was diagnosed in real life with dementia praecox, which is what they used to call schizophrenia. So you can read his visions of the strings and the explosions and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like he could see what quantum physics,
Right.
what quantum mechanics are, because he, was hallucinating on some level. I don't know how much that's fair to connect those two, but I mean, he's obviously not just smart. He's also very, different way of looking at the world. And that's true. The movie is, to me, the movie is so exclusively from his perspective. It became a problem because nobody matters really in the movie except him.
Well,
And
that's
Yeah,
not
I
true.
guess you're right.
Strauss. I
well,
mean,
but Strauss's entire character is you insulted me.
yeah.
And so I will destroy you, which is a legitimate, character arc and stuff. But I mean, the thing that made me,
But he was sly about it. Why he was sly about it? I mean,
no, he's very good at it. Yeah, no,
yeah,
he's very
I mean,
manipulative and
right?
everything.
He turned. That's why I thought his performance was so good. The whole time he's manipulating everything, and then he finally turns and becomes the real person that he's out for blood. with.
well, and the character you were talking about, the guy from the Star Wars film, Aaron, what's his name? The fictional character that was talking to the kid.
oh, you're
that
talking
was,
about the aide.
the aide. The aide.
Yeah.
Oh, Alden Ehrenreich. Yeah.
I mean,
Han
he
Solo.
is our like because he's our into the fact that we know this guy did that, because the public doesn't know any of that because he comes out of that thing with a big smile on his face and he's going to try to tell the press everything's fine. But he's our like, aha, we got this guy, even though we didn't really see that happen. That was all written for the film.
Hey, I'm going to ask a question, and I'm just curious. I'm no prude, but like, the sex scene in the things and all. In the 70s, people had nudity in the movies because it helped bring in an audience, and it was a proven thing. And do you think that in any way it increased the audience of this film to have the nudity, the sex in it?
No.
No.
I thought. I mean, the first one was appropriate for the scene. The second one I thought was like excessive. Like, why is this in here? It made no sense to me.
Well, there are three times.
There's 3 scenes. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 3
It's
times.
the
I don't
first
remember
time
the
when
one-
he reads the I am death becomes me or whatever. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
come on.
I am become death, destroyer
I am
of
become
worlds.
death, the destroyer
In
of
the
worlds.
same-
That's what
Sanskrit.
women always tell me when I'm in
Right,
bed.
when she's, then it's the second time where they're just sitting across from each other that's the one that got CGI'd when it played over in India. It's when she's sitting on the chair
Well,
with him.
but here's the thing, though, and I think this is, I don't have a problem with the nudity. I think Florence Pugh is a wonderful actress. So, seeing her in even a small role is a treat, because she's just really wonderful. And those scenes they're naked. He's clearly naked, even though you don't see what John's most afraid of. He's naked in the second scene that you mentioned, Ralph, where they're sitting across from each other, but they're not having sex.
Yeah,
They're just naked. And
Right.
the vulnerability of that, I thought, was kind of interesting, but also, then the way that, and this is what really happened, Tatlock, that's Florence Pugh's character, she did kill herself, and she suffered from depression. There's one shot where somebody's hand is on her head.
They
I
implied that
Well,
she
if you
was
look at
murdered.
any
Yeah.
documentaries on Oppenheimer, they indicate that she did not kill herself.
Yeah, I don't know, and the fact that I don't really have that strong a
Well,
feeling
that black
about it
glove
is
came in
because
and pushed her
it
head
didn't
down.
right, exactly. It didn't really. I don't know. I mean,
No, but
it
as
didn't
far
really
as the
matter for the
nudity,
movie.
Sean, I mean, the thing about that actress is she doesn't have, she just looks comfortable in her, in her.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that she's not, they're not all glammed up. And the scene in the room, you're talking about the gray that trial that they're doing.
Yeah.
Again, to me, that's flipping perspectives again, and it's going to the wife. And it's like, okay, it's not that. I think you guys had mentioned, or John, or somebody had mentioned how gratuitous that was when that's the first.
No, I didn't say it was gratuitous. I just said, what was the point of that, other than you're trying to show that's what the wife is seeing,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
but I was like, okay. I mean, the other ones didn't bother me at all, but that one just seemed like.
Wondering what did it.
I don't think.
I don't think it kept people
Nolan
away,
put
and I don't think
nude
it brought
scenes
people
in to get more people to see the movie. I don't believe that for 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, but in the old days, that's what they used to do.
Well, but that's the old days, right?
Yeah. So, so I was just wondering the purpose.
Well, come on,
I go with what Drew said about it shows the characters with a vulnerability,
right?
And I could see that, but I don't necessarily think that last one, where we go to the wife's perspective, accomplishes that. And it's sort of like, if you can't figure out what the wife is thinking, you don't need to see. I mean, it's a visual medium. It's just more of a metaphorical question, because obviously, I mentioned Vanishing Point, the first film where I saw some nudity, quite a bit on this podcast.
What, you?
Yeah, but I will say this took.
I mean, every horror movie, Sean, has boobs, and I mean,
of course,
because I don't understand.
I think since the rise of the internet, nudity gives you nothing in a movie now, because you can get so much more just on your phone. So when we all grew up, and you're a little younger than us, you really had to work at it. I
mean, I Sears catalog was a big deal in my life. Okay,
exactly.
So I mean,
what we had was something called Super TV, where they would have like adult films at night, but we didn't subscribe, but it was an over-the-air signal.
Yeah.
And it would be like,
like
remember HBO, early HBO, and
Scramble Channel.
Yeah, Scramble Channel.
Hey, I saw a boob.
Sure.
I just saw a boob.
I mean, again, I don't think this movie was not about boobs. This movie was about bombs. I hate to keep bringing that.
Not at all. Not at all.
And it's funny that's, I don't know. I find that funny.
Sean,
of all people, Sean, from you.
America is very prudish. And so I wasn't surprised that was the reaction.
Listen,
whereas
they
in other
glaze
countries
over
that are conservative, like India, they just said, "Well, you can't see that. Here's the solution," and they moved on with their lives.
But then they glaze over the fact that he gave his kid to some other family. The guy who ends up,
right,
yeah,
the guy he reported on, basically.
Well, I think that's part of
protected him, actually, but
that's part of why, because it's so. And again, this isn't wrong from a storytelling perspective. It's just, it wasn't satisfying to me. It's only really about him and everything from his perspective, and he's not like some horrible, monstrous, abusive person or anything like that, where you're watching him do things that are cruel and awful all the time or things like that. But the fact is, the movie is so much only Oppenheimer. We don't see the actual bombings.
Yeah, that was
disappointing to me. He's conflicted and thinks I may have set off a chain reaction that will destroy the world, which is at the end of the movie. That's what he was talking about with Einstein when Strauss thought he was basically, making fun of him or something. His whole Salieri moment. But I feel like I wasn't insulted by it, but it felt like a huge hole in the movie, because you see Oppenheimer picture his team getting hit with a nuclear weapon, and he sees a woman whose skin is peeling, which is pretty tame, frankly. I don't know if you've seen the documentary. It's an HBO documentary from 2007. It's called White Light, Black Rain, and it's interviews with survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I mean, it's just horrifying. People that had holes put in them by our bomb, 60 years earlier, and they still live with it, and they still have wounds, and they still have cancers, and they still have all these terrible things. And there's the one scene, I guess he's looking at slides or something from Hiroshima, and you don't see what he's seeing. You see the light on his face, and he kind of goes like this. And I don't know, it kind of pissed me off, because Nolan cast the woman that's skin is peeling as his daughter Flora, as the actress that's peeling, and he said something like, I wanted to make it as personal as possible for me as the filmmaker, so I thought casting my daughter would be very intense for me. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't look like what nuclear death looks like. It looks like she was out in the sun.
How can you, Sean? You really wanted to see the bombings? I don't understand.
Well, I'm just saying. Similarly, Coppola on Godfather 3 wanted to really discuss the horrors of the mafia. So he thought it was best to get his daughter Sofia Coppola in the film, which led to horrors to the audience. No, yeah, I wanted, it's the weenie. They built this bomb. You want to see it go off. I mean, you show a gun. You show a gun in the first act.
I disagree. I mean, I think no. Why?
I didn't feel it from that Chekhov's gun perspective.
I mean, for me, it's the character that's the most interesting to me is the general. He kind of sloughs it off. He says, "I built the Pentagon." I mean, the guy built the Pentagon.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an interesting character. That's Paul Newman's character in the one earlier.
Look, I mean, it's an interesting thing to watch him finally take delivery of the bomb and then be like, okay, I'll talk to you later.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand Oppenheimer's waiting around for the call. Did they drop it? And it's not like today, there wasn't going to be, footage on CNN type of thing. So I understand that. But, the rest of what he wrestles with, it's not the rest of the movie, I don't think, because it does continue to move around in time, but he wrestles the rest of his life with, did I do something awful? But you don't really have a sense of how awful it is, except that how awful it is. And I felt like that wasn't enough.
Gen Z really knows how awful it was.
Well, that's I don't worry about like you got to reach the youngest kids or something. I mean, in the power of the movie, I think there are plenty of movies that wrestle with it, and Oppenheimer doesn't have to wrestle with it. This isn't me saying the movie is something that it's not what I wanted the movie to be. That wouldn't be fair for me to say that. It's very distinct storytelling choices that I didn't like, but that's the movie that he wanted to make. It's going to win him an Oscar. It made almost $1 billion. I'm not arguing with his choices, but Godzilla -1 has more to say about the people surviving that level of destruction and humiliation. And I don't know if you guys watched Twin Peaks: The Return, the Showtime series. Episode 7 or 8 is basically the thesis of Twin Peaks is that there is terrible evil in the world. And I think that what that episode is about, it's about the Trinity test, but it's David Lynch. So it's bizarre and purple and crazy imagery and all these kinds of things. But what you get is the fear that David Lynch as a storyteller has of the power of this bomb. And I wanted to feel that in the Trinity test sequence. I wanted it to, it's kind of suspenseful, but he made a big deal about using real explosives and compositing it together and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I guess that looks neat, but I wanted to feel more horror watching it, even as the people who've devoted themselves to building it aren't feeling it. They're just excited that they did it. Like, I don't have a problem that they're disconnected from it. They've spent 3 years of their life, and it was something like $30 billion in today's money building the bombs. And then they put them in those trucks and they drive away and they feel sad. I don't know.
I mean, there was a lot of conflict going on with all of them. There was some that didn't want to do it at all. I liked his friend that kept feeding the oranges to him. His
Robbie,
his
David
anti-military. Take that uniform off. You're a scientist. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, we know the horrors of the bombing. Why is that something that needs to be said again? We know
it's not something that needs to be said again. It's something that could be addressed in a movie that's specifically about the man who he's not, of course, the only person who did this,
right?
But he is the face of this because he was in charge of the project underneath Groves and the military.
I mean, what do you think of the scene with the president, with Truman?
Well, first of all, Gary Oldman, I guess, is trying to play every World War II leader as he played FDR.
I didn't even know that was him at
Stalin.
first when I saw it the first time.
Yeah, that's I think a pretty fair description, a fair depiction of Truman, and the whole that whole crybaby line is real. Yeah, don't let him back in here.
What was that line? I thought was great when he said, "We have the bomb, but who uses it?" What he said? Truman said something like,
"You think anyone in Hiroshima or Nagasaki gives a shit who built the bomb? They care who dropped it. I did. Hiroshima isn't about you."
And he seemed perfectly comfortable living with
Paul
Tibbets,
because they looked at it how many millions of lives did they save?
Right. That's the calculus that they made. They also did it clearly based on anything we've learned since then. They wanted to make a point to the Russians.
Right.
And it's weird because the movie, again, it doesn't have to be about everything, but the movie is very clearly notes Fuchs as someone who passed intelligence to the Russians, and that he was a traitor, and that came up in the Q Commission thing about like, who you associate with and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But they don't mention what's his name, Greenglass, and Greenglass leaked information to the Russians through his sister, Ethel Rosenberg. And Ethel and Julius Rosenberg were executed for giving the Soviets atomic bomb, stolen intelligence about how to make atomic bombs, which apparently, as we've learned decades later, they definitely gave stuff to the Russians. They didn't give them that, and probably should not have been executed for that, because Greenglass got years in prison, but he was in no danger of being executed, and they got electrocuted. And so it's weird that it chooses to touch on some things and not others. I don't know. Maybe J stands for Jewish. I'm not sure.
Oppenheimer. Well, here, I just want to say first, I like the movie. I think it's one of the last adult films that Debbie and I saw at the theaters, you know, because now we mainly see kids movies. And Debbie really loved it because Debbie loves smart people and loves films about smart people and loves scientists. Her late husband, her ex-husband who died, was an esteemed scientist. I think he made lasers that killed people from space, you know, or things like that.
It was Val Kilmer.
Real genius.
Yeah, like real genius. So
another science classic.
Yeah, and
that's a classic.
And you know what I was most impressed with this film, and you know, I'm keep bringing up like marketing and things like that, you know, like, but what I really like is that, you know, because of Nolan's reputation and his track record, they would let him spend all this money to make this film about, you know, if you look at the films that are like the big films out there now, and there's nothing like this serious or this a historical piece like this. Maybe Napoleon, you know,
Zone of Interest.
It's going to have battle scenes, not, you know.
Zone of Interest.
You know,
yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I would think Zone of Interest definitely fits that bill.
Well, Zone of Interest is a little film. It was not a big budget.
Oh, you're
film.
talking about the scale of it. Well, but look,
yeah.
even Christopher Nolan didn't make the movie he initially set out to make. It didn't compromise it, but he was given $100 million to make the movie. Universal committed its first movie he has made without Warner Brothers, you know, in like 20 years or something, 25 years. And they committed $100 million to marketing and an 85-day shooting schedule. And they were like, well, we have to build Los Alamos. So they started to build it, and they were like, well, this is like $30 million. And so to make the movie the way that they wanted to make the movie in terms of what they could actually put on screen, Christopher Nolan somehow said, instead of making the movie for $100 million in 85 days, we're going to make it for $100 million in 55 days, which is, and that's what he did. And that's crazy. I mean, this is a very big movie, and to do it that quickly is crazy. So I mean, he's an incredible
It was a
filmmaker.
big chance. It was an adult film, you know, with adult ideas, adult themes, you know, interesting things. So I really admire everyone who said, you know what, let's make this movie. And I will say I enjoyed the movie too, but I had some of the similar problems that Drew has, and it's like, well, what is you know, there's all these different storylines and this and that, and what is the major story? What did you think was the major storyline? You know, is it?
Isn't it the major story, Los Alamos? Isn't that the story here, that they brought all these scientists together?
Or is it about what it means to be an American and what it means to have political freedom? Is that the story? Is the
yes, that's
story
it.
Yep. Is that the story?
How about corruption? That's a story.
Yeah, you know, so it's like,
what's wrong with multiple stories?
No, but
like
it's.
I mean, we know the outcome. We know they dropped 2 bombs, right, on Japan.
Yeah.
So we know that outcome. What we don't know, maybe, or some of you guys might have, all the history behind and what it took to build that thing, and how they brought families over there, and how these smart females were being used to be secretaries and stuff. And I mean, so what? There's many stories going on. And again, I was able to track that much more the second time I saw it.
Yeah,
and,
I got to admit, I took a deep dive afterwards, and one thing I found interesting is Teller, who did the father of the hydrogen
the H-bomb. Yeah,
he has a patent with another scientist on the mechanism that ignites the hydrogen bomb. So there is a patent in the Copyright Office. I'm sure it's classified. So you can't make, I'm sure he gets some sort of payment every time someone makes a hydrogen bomb, his heirs. And you got to wonder if people in other countries who like have stolen this and make hydrogen bombs, whether his family sues them for copyright violation, and would these people who could make another hydrogen bomb, pay on that copyright?
Well, that's a very zone of interest kind of idea, actually, because talking about normalizing something like that, that's horror. I mean, I've been to Auschwitz, I've been to the museums there and a couple of other camps, and when you go into the gas chamber, there's a door that they use to close the gas chamber with a peephole you can look through, make sure everybody's dead so you can open it safely and all that stuff. And on the door is the stamp of the manufacturer, which means the German government, the Nazi government, had a bidding process, and you had to pitch yourself to get the contract and make them accept the whole time what you're bidding to do. And what it is to make a door to make sure that you kill people without endangering the lives of the people that are doing the killing. But that's not something that the people who made that door, they were in an office, they were doing, that was their job, they were doing work, they were winning government contracts, all that kind of stuff. And so to have a patent personally for something like that feels like it's in the same neighborhood.
I mean, brawn razors have a history back.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
there's lots of that.
I mean, you go through the whole
zone of interest is about a family living next to that. So,
and that also brings up the question of the workers on the Death Star. From like Kevin Smith.
That was Kevin Smith's concern, which is it's fair. The contractors that all got killed.
Oh, by the way, Drew, have you seen the new look that's on Amazon Plus?
What do you mean?
It's a show called The New Look. It's about.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's some very interesting Nazi Jewish stuff in episode 1, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can sidebar.
What did
But
I watch?
I do want to say I enjoyed this film. And I was so happy that they made it. It was so good to see something that wasn't a superhero movie or an action franchise out there, So applause for the people who made this, and it gives me hope for the future of the film business. And I'm not BSing this. I really believe this. I'm like very happy they made this film, and what little problems I've have with it are just insignificant, and it's of course, it's the sound issue. I mean, what the hell is he like partially I don't understand why he feels the need to like.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach. But I don't know, John, you've been quiet, unusually quiet, I have to add.
Well, I'm just listening. You guys, I mean, we've gone nonstop since we started, so I'm just listening. Look,
it's cancer.
First of all, this was a film along with Barbie that got people back to the theaters, right? Because people aren't going to the movies. And it's a movie that, Drew, you already said this. This is a movie that you needed to see in IMAX just for the Trinity scene, which was just amazing in IMAX. And for me, because I actually watched, I read a book and I've watched a bunch of documentaries on Oppenheimer. So I knew a lot about him before the movie started. So I just found, for me, the whole thing, and I agree with Drew on like the flashbacks, flash forwards, because I think it made the movie too long. I didn't think it needed to be 3 hours. And it's not like I'm against long movies, because as you guys know, we watch a lot of long movies, but there were times when you're like, all right, let's move along. But like, the fact that he was a lousy scientist, but this brilliant theoretical physicist, and how
you mean bad in the lab, all that stuff.
Yeah. And to go from thinking about something, right, theoretically, to actually come to fruition, the bomb, I found a really compelling story. And for me, the best part of the movie was once they went to Los Alamos. I just find that compelling. And the music drove me nuts because it was so loud all the time.
Yeah, in every scene.
But I will say this. Trinity, he cuts the sound. And it made that scene so much more impactful, because it was the one place you didn't have any background music where you expected it to be. And it just made it, for me, it's like, oh my God, I just found that incredible. And I thought, when you look at video of Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy looked just like him. I mean, all sunken and everything. So it's not like I loved the movie, but I think I liked it more than Drew because of the Trinity scene. And frankly, the performances were all good, but Robert Downey and Cillian Murphy were just so good in this film. I mean, it just really, I thought anyway, really good performances.
Well, they'll both probably get Oscars for it.
I mean,
I think Downey deserves it.
Back to the music just for a second. If it
yeah.
were not Christopher Nolan, would you say that's like a student film trick? It's like, let's make everything loud. So the big scene,
but he
about
does
the
it
bomb,
in every movie, so it's not unexpected.
But in this one, it made it worked.
But yeah, well, that's what I'm
reason.
saying.
Yeah.
If not for that Trinity scene,
Except in the,
would I say to you that it worked? Maybe not. Maybe I'd think, but I do think it made such a difference in that one scene to me. Once the music stopped, it just built the tension to it. And the other thing is, you know, Christopher Nolan is like Spielberg, right? Even his bad films
are better than most.
Are really well made.
Oh,
I mean, he is such, and he's a genius filmmaker. Even in his bad stuff, they have a look to it, you know. And this was one of those deals. Even the flash forwards and the flashbacks, even though it did get confusing, visually it's still kind of interesting. And you know, like you talked about, Sean, it got people back to the theater because it was an adult film. Yes, that's true, but it's also because it's a Nolan film. And like a Spielberg film, people will go to see a Nolan film, right?
In the theater, you mean?
In the theater, I'm talking about. Or even on TV, you know, because Nolan has a look. You know what you're going to get. You might not always like it, but you know you're going to get something maybe unexpected or you know, his look. So from that perspective, I really liked it. And I'm a big fan. Even Barbie, which I don't want to see. Any movie like Maverick that gets people back into the theater, I am behind 100% because it's going the other way. And I don't want that to happen because I think the sitting down in a movie theater and watching a movie is, you know, there's certain movies that you can watch on TV, and that's, I don't care what setup you have. It's not the same as going to a movie theater. So for me, anything that gets people
it's not
back,
the same.
Give people movies they want to see. And
yeah, I want to get people back in the theater because that's a shared experience. And the night I went, it was a completely packed house. And it was like the end of Platoon. When Platoon was over, you could hear a pin drop in the movie theater. It was like that with Oppenheimer too. No one was saying anything. You know, usually you hear, you know, people talking back and forth. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, go see Zone of Interest if you really want to get that feeling.
Well, I'm just telling you, that's how I felt. And I did a 10-minute review. I did an instant reaction to it, but from a filmmaking standpoint, you know, Nolan there's only a handful of directors that you go, I want to see that because of who the director is, whatever the story is. But Oppenheimer, you know, they were so, like Drew, you already mentioned this. They were so excited about that they were able to do this that they didn't really think about if they should do it. But you have to be fair. They stopped World War II with this, right? And
Maybe.
I mean, the Japanese surrendered, and they weren't going to surrender.
They would have surrendered earlier if we had allowed them to keep the emperor.
Well, okay, but you know, so that's for the rest of his life. He had those two sides of the coin. He stopped the war and saved, I don't know how many millions of lives, right? But then created this thing that has taken not just the big bomb that dropped, but how many bombs have dropped since that have killed people. So that's something that, and he did get stiffed. I mean, the country turned their back on him.
Yeah, but the difference is the other bombs that have been dropped, there's nothing like those two bombs that have been used. I mean, more people were incinerated in Dresden and Tokyo by firebombing, but this is one airplane with one bomb destroyed a city twice. And those weapons can do much more. The biggest nuclear bomb ever tested was the Tsar Bomba Russian bomb. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would do to any city that you're familiar with. Unfortunately, we've never used those weapons, but this was different. It was different. And also, if you get bombed by, if you survive a bombing, which is obviously a horrible experience and horrendous and terrifying, and you can have everything that you know destroyed, you're not going to get cancer from it.
Right.
And die from that, you know, 5, 10, 20 years later, because this bomb actually it goes into your body,
right?
Even if it doesn't go into your body.
But I guess
And
the
so-
argument is, as horrible as it is, and the outcome was horrible. What if Germany did this? Had the power.
That's the
What
thing,
if Russia had it?
And that's
Well,
why they
you know,
wanted
I
everyone to
have-
get the bomb.
I have
mutually assured
thoughts about
destruction.
that. I have thoughts about that. I don't know that we would have dropped the bomb on Germany.
I don't know.
And I'm not saying we casually dropped it on Japan. I don't know if we would have dropped the bomb on other white people. It's the same thing that happened on January 6th. I'm like, why aren't they shooting at these people that are storming our Capitol building? Because they're white. And I think the fact that the Japanese are not us in that way made it easier to make that kind of decision. Because the Japanese were they were ready to fight. They were torn.
Well, they attacked Pearl Harbor. I think that's the difference between Germany and Japan.
Well, yes,
right?
They started the war with us, and
Okay,
they
so
were
I think
trying
that
to
my
negotiate
point was if
a
Germany
peace with
had this
Russia,
tech-
and Russia was
I'm saying
going
if
after their
Germany had
property,
these
so-
bombs, that probably would have been way worse.
Oh, I
right? No,
think
if they
they
had
would
it, but
have
we know that.
definitely-
Well, we know
I'm not
that
suggesting
they were
why
nowhere
would you-
near us now.
I mean,
Like,
I think
you
that
know.
I don't know, I think the decision had to be because they bombed Pearl Harbor. I mean,
Yeah, I just
and they were
don't
never
see
going to
them
stop.
They
I don't know
felt
about
like
the
Japan
emperor thing
was
you're
never
talking about,
going to
Sean.
surrender,
They weren't going to stop. They were
That's right.
torturing prisoners,
and Japan told them that
brutalizing prisoners.
because they were going to do a land war, and they said if you do this land war, you're going to lose 1 million.
No, I
souls.
remember. Yeah, sure.
You know, so I don't think white or Asian had.
But that's why
anything to
this
do with
movie
that.
was
Well,
about.
here's the thing. Part of it is culturally different. Is that the Japanese had a different viewpoint towards war, and the treatment of prisoners and things. That was,
Right.
if you were an American or a Brit or anyone who was fighting, some Caucasian fighting in fighting Japan, you were really in trouble if you were a prisoner. And the brutality, in the sense of honor and killing, that is, I don't think I'm bullshitting about this at all. The Japanese had a different culture about this, and
Well, isn't that why they dropped the second bomb? Because they didn't even surrender after the first bomb.
yeah.
Isn't that what
I
happened?
did a
Well-
screenplay based on the, they've done so many movies about the Hitler bunker, and I did one on the Japanese surrender mechanism. And to me, the most absurdist thing is after the Hiroshima, a general went out and went back to the council and said, "Hey, the good news is it looks like it only affected the surface. It didn't look like if we, underground structures would probably be safe from these weapons." To which the person who was in charge of the country, not the emperor, said, "What, you expect us to rebuild all of our cities underground?" The guy who wanted to surrender. It's like, this is absurd that you're thinking, oh, it's only destroying the stuff on the surface,
Well, I think they say in the movie, we dropped the first one to show we can do this, and then we dropped the second one to show we can keep doing this.
Yeah.
And nobody knew that we didn't have 10 more, that kind of
Well,
thing.
but like John was saying, they didn't surrender after the first one. I don't know if the plan was to drop two the whole time.
Well, I think you could depending on
They picked two.
There's a lot of
There's a scene where they
historiography.
picked the two places, right?
Right, but and then James Remar's character.
Yeah,
Well, we honeymooned in Kyoto,
honeymooned
so
there, right.
I took it off the
They're
list.
lucky. That's a
James
good-
Remar. Yeah, a
that's
lot
real.
of faces were in this film. That's true.
Yeah, that's great.
I forgot about James. As an aside, has anybody visited Los Alamos?
No, I've never been.
I
Have you?
have.
You've been to Los Alamos.
Yeah, for my
What's
first
there?
honeymoon, I trekked
First
through all of
honeymoon.
Arizona.
Wait a minute. You went on your honeymoon to Los Alamos?
I did.
How about Area
not
54?
to stay there.
Were you out there too?
I visited there, and it's
Wait, which
kind of-
honeymoon?
No, the first one. No, the second one. Sorry. The second one.
They all kind of just.
No, the first one was Cancun. Second one was Arizona. I started in Albuquerque and drove up to Taos and dropped into Los Alamos. And it's a little creepy.
What was there?
What's that?
What is there?
It's, it's like museums and stuff.
Oh.
And, it's some of the original structures, I think.
Oh, really?
But there's signs everywhere that says, "Welcome to Los Alamos, the birth of the bomb." It's quite interesting.
I'll bet.
So just a little aside. All right. So do you guys think this is going to win the Oscar?
Absolutely.
I think it will.
Do you think it's deserved to win the Oscar?
Well, I haven't seen most of the best pictures, so
I
can't.
need to see two more. I really need
I
to
can't
see Past
say.
Yeah.
Lives.
I
and
was
Zone
really
of Interest.
pushing for Zone of Interest, and then I saw this
of
again,
Interest.
and I just think this is the Academy's going to This is a perfect.
I mean, this
Academy
is the
movie.
type of film
It's a
that
big
wins.
studio film.
And it was successful,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So that's important because a lot of times they pick
Barbie
these
made more though.
that no one ever goes sees, and it's like it's nice that a well-made picture also got the people to go see it too. I like that.
Well, give them credit though. Parasite won a couple years ago, didn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but no
and
one
that-
saw it. It didn't
That
really
was not
boost
a.
it.
That was
That's
not
what I'm
getting-
saying. I mean, sometimes they pick these movies that the general public doesn't have any interest in. So it's nice when a best picture also is a popular picture that people actually want to go see.
Like Return of the King.
But what's what I'm saying? You look at like they pick now it's 10 movies. The average person probably hasn't seen half of them and probably won't see half of them, right? So when a movie like this that people actually went to the theaters to see and is a well-made film, it's nice when that
Well,
happens.
they're all streaming. Most of these are streaming. Zone of Interest is actually
Yeah.
streaming pretty soon. So I think
Well,
more
I
people
will
are
tell
seeing
you,
more of these films than before.
Yeah,
like
they
you
are.
said.
But again, this is one. I mean, I know I've said it a couple of times, but this is one I wish people saw. Like Maverick. I mean, Maverick, you want to see in the movie theater. It
It was
doesn't have the
fun.
same impact when you see it on your even I've got a 103-inch screen. It's not the same as being in that movie
stop
theater.
bragging.
Well, I tell you what, I saw the statistics. What was it last year? They were talking about the streaming of like some of the Oscar-nominated pictures, and even though they were free and they were available for streaming, it's like people just were not seeing.
Yeah.
They were just not seeing the films. I will
The
say,
average viewer is not going to watch some of those movies. They're just not. It's not their cup of tea.
That's
I gotta
okay.
say,
Yeah.
when the nominations came out, I had only seen like 2 or 3 of them, and I immediately watched all the trailers. And I'm like, wow, this is a really good group of films for a change. But as I was watching the films themselves, I must say I've been disappointed by most of them. I still have like 2.
Well, they've also diluted it with 10. 10 is ridiculous. I mean, they shouldn't be having 10 nominations.
Did you hear they're putting casting directors up?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And you have to
That
hit
is
it.
really important. They are really their value is really underestimated in the movie.
Yeah, I agree with that, but how do you prevent the best casting, from always lining up with the best actor winner? I mean, there is a serious
like an
skill to
ensemble
casting.
film
I don't
would
know
win.
if it comes through in an award. I mean, I can't believe they're doing casting before they're doing stunts. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, see, that's one that I would say, yeah, that deserves an Academy
Well,
Award.
to me, stunts are less important now because there are fewer of them.
Yeah, but
the
you do a
70s,
movie
there
with
were-
Leonardo DiCaprio, no one's casting him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, come on.
That's true.
I don't know.
Well, I've
Speaking
seen
of stunts,
seven of the 10.
Wow.
I still haven't seen Past Lives, American Fiction, or Zone of Interest.
Now, the
And,
7 you've seen, do you think they're worthy Best Picture contenders?
I'm looking at the list right now, and even though I don't like all of them, the only one I go, wow, that is a crappy movie, is Maestro.
but
That's the
here's
only
the thing:
one I was super
Maestro,
disappointed in.
Maestro, on paper, if you don't watch the film, is the prototypical Oscar film. It's a
Of
big
course.
film
The
with
biopic.
big actors. It's a biopic.
Directed by
personal
him. Didn't he
project.
direct it, right?
Yeah, he directed it. He's
Yeah.
been working on it for 6 years. I mean, if I look at the movies that I did see in the theater on this list, I only saw 2 of them. I only saw Barbie and Poor Things. And
Poor Things. I still haven't seen that yet.
they were it's great. It's crazy. I mean, it's Yorgos Lanthimos, so it's definitely weird stuff that you haven't seen. I don't know. You can read a lot of different ways into it. I think it's kind of a good companion to Barbie, honestly. But it's again, she'll probably win the Oscar, and I don't have a problem with that. The stuff that she and Mark Ruffalo and other people in that movie do is pretty incredible. But I don't know. I mean, I think if I've watched 7 of them this year, that's more of the Oscar movies, especially since they've had 10, that I've been able to see before the ceremony than in probably quite a few years. And like Ralph, like we all said, there's a lot of good movies there, but like I could see why they nominated Killers of the Flower Moon. I just didn't like it. I liked Oppenheimer better than Killers of the Flower Moon, but I didn't love it. And that's okay, because we're watching people who clearly know how to make movies get recognition,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Killers is also a prototypical type of Oscar film. Big
Mm-hmm.
director, big cast, familiar cast.
I think it's a good group. I think it's a good 10. I mean, this is
I
like
agree.
there's some quality stuff in there. Barbie's really the only outlier because it's so different and weird,
Pink.
and But
Well, I don't
still,
know
it
what
deserves
made
it
Barbenheimer
based on how much
happen.
money it made. I mean, really, you got to give shout out to that.
They want
Well,
people
but I
to
mean, I
watch
don't know
the
what
show.
made Barbenheimer happen, but that was a theater only
Yeah,
phenomenon.
that's amazing. That was an
and was
amazing
kind
thing.
of just an extraordinary thing.
Yeah. Very
People
organic.
said I went and saw both movies on the same day, and there weren't 20 people.
Wow.
Millions of viewers saw it the same weekend. They did that's incredible. And what is that? 6 hours of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they're both
speaking of
worth
Josh,
watching.
you mentioned Josh Hartnett, right?
Mm-hmm.
That guy, I can't I saw a Black Mirror episode with him and Aaron Paul, and I didn't click that it was Hartnett until halfway through. He beefed up. He looks great. And it's fascinating to see him.
Yeah, it's too bad they got the ending of that episode backward. It could have been a really good episode.
Yeah, but it was fun to see.
It's amazing because he was a guy primed for stardom.
Yes, he was.
You could tell he had all those films made before the first one came out. They were just so sure he was going to be a giant star. And to me, I don't think he clicked until he did that vampire film, 40 Days and Nights or whatever. About
30 Days of Dark or Night.
Well, I just read a thing with him that he was one of the last 3 people to play Batman to be cast as Batman. They were down to 3 candidates for Batman Begins, the first Nolan one. And he wanted to work with Christopher Nolan, but he just didn't want to do I don't know. I don't really know if I'm too good for superhero stuff, or I just want to make more serious art. There's nothing wrong with making that movie, but he declined it. And he said that's maybe the biggest mistake of declining a role he should have taken. And so to get to work with Nolan all of these many years later was apparently a very exciting personal goal for him. But he's also a guy who, I think he lives in Minneapolis or something. He's been outside of the
he's
whole
not
Hollywood
He's
world.
definitely not Hollywood.
Yeah.
Listen,
Black Hawk Down, he's good in that, but you can't tell anybody apart. At least in this movie, you can
Didn't
tell
he do
people
Hollywood
apart.
Homicide?
He did Hollywood Homicide.
Yeah, that
He did
was
Pearl Harbor.
Black Dahlia.
Black
He's
Dahlia,
done a lot of
it's
movies.
one
Like
dog
anybody
act.
else, they're not all good, but I think he's good. He was
No,
in the faculty.
I thought it was the Black Mirror episode I kind of recognized, and this one I thought he was good. So
Yeah, I didn't make it. I didn't see him first. I was like, oh, that's Josh Hartnett. That's Benny Safdie. That's David Krumholtz. They're all people I knew when they were first in the movies 20, 30 years ago. And they're like the rest of us. They got older and thicker and grayer. So,
all right, I'll ask you guys. Do you want to do What'd You Watch or Spin the Wheel first?
You're the showrunner. I don't care. Whatever you
All
want.
right, we're going to spin the wheel then.
let's do it.
Now, is it spinning the wheel for everyone who's on the show right now?
No, it's for everybody, John.
Oh, okay. Chris is
Okay?
going to be on the wheel.
I'm going to have a meeting with Chris
He has
this weekend.
2
I'm gonna,
entries on it.
I may change the format based on
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. What, you're going to have a wheel with only Chris's
I don't
picture
know.
on
Maybe
it?
we'll see. All right, here we go.
Come on, Chris.
It's going to be Chris or Ralph. You know that. Oh, hey!
Hey, it's
All
Drew.
right.
We'll get something interesting.
That's 2 in a row, Drew. Go play the lottery.
2 in a row.
Yep, it happens.
Oh.
Drew,
but-
I'm proud of you that you were able to
So
achieve.
no themes, just pick a film.
I'll have to think about it. I know.
Well,
I
you
have
got
an
a
extra
week. Yeah, you got a week
We
to think
got,
about it.
a death in the
Plus, we
gunge.
got that
to
ganja
go.
movie.
Yep.
Now, we'll see. We'll see what if it's possible. I'll pick something else recent, just because I'm still trying to see these last 3 movies. I know Past Lives is streaming. I think American Fiction you can rent, and like Ralph said, Zone of Interest is coming this way to home soon. I would like to see it in the theater, but it's really not.
Oh, that would be fun if you
Pick
picked
Pick
another Oscar
American
contender.
Fiction. That's what I would.
I don't want to influence your decision at all.
Well, I'll see. I have some time. I may pick another Roger Moore movie. Whatever.
Oh,
We'll see.
Okay, that'd be
Well, he's an instinctive filmmaker. I'm sure any
Yes, he
film you
is.
pick of his would be good.
No, I'm not going to pick an Indian movie because we have a whole show about that.
yes. We don't want
And
to.
our goal on this show is to get at least as many likes as there are people on the show, so it's a little easier this week.
Which
4
we
likes.
don't
No, that's
often
going to
do.
be hard on
That's
this
right.
one.
4 likes, baby. 4 likes.
Hey, listen,
So,
I've
yes,
been
I will
looking at
let you
other
know.
review shows, and not everybody gets millions of views. There's a lot of
No,
people,
but they do get more than 100, Ralph.
Not really. Look around. You look around a little
Come
bit.
on.
It's interesting. But
Yeah.
all right,
Some
so
of my
let's
original songs get-
let's do a little What You Watch. I'm going to start because I keep watching these films. I'm back watching Love Is Blind on Netflix. And it's the only
Is it a new
reality
season?
show that I get obsessed about. It's so ridiculous.
Is
I
it a
love
new season?
This is the
It's
one
a
with
new-
full
it's a
frontal
6th
nudity,
season.
right?
What's that?
Is this the one with full frontal nudity?
That's
That's
on
another
Max.
show, right? Where they drop the thing.
No,
down?
this is they don't
they
see each
raise
other and they
Oh.
get engaged before they see each other, and then there's a reveal of what they look like.
Okay.
We saw Marie and I also watched the Swedish version of it, which is fascinating to watch it with subtitles. Anyway, Love Is Blind season 6. That's what I'm watching.
Debbie loves that show.
It's a great show. She's got good taste. All right, Sean, what are you watching?
Okay, I didn't finish it yet, but I just found it really intriguing. I was watching Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. And I'm not really liking it for two reasons. One, well, let me say what I don't like about it so far and what I do like about it. One, it's just too much action, and it's like a superhero movie. And it's like a James Bond movie, but not as, in my opinion, not as good. And it's like there's no rest. There's no, I guess, what is that? The 6th film? I guess
7th.
They feel no need to have any character development or anything.
What are you talking about? He's got to get a new, 25, 30 or younger brunette every.
Well, in this case, it's a woman who's a pickpocket. And
Haley Atwell.
Yeah, she's amazing.
But also, too, I thought Tom Cruise looked great in Maverick for a guy his age. But in Dead Reckoning, maybe it's because his character never seems to smile or anything, but suddenly he just looks
normal,
old, and his face is like really firm, like he's had surgery, but I don't know if he has.
I think he has. The rumor is he has.
I'm surprised that you could look at his face during the movie because he did something that definitely got my attention, which is close-up magic. And I think that was one of the more exciting parts of the movie when he did close-up magic.
What did he do? I missed
when they're in Dubai in the airport and he first meets Haley Atwell, he ends up doing close-up magic, and then he does it throughout the movie, hiding the key and all that.
Well, if you remember, he did it in the first movie too with the disc.
Yes, he did. It's great. It's great.
Close-up
Yeah,
magic.
for me,
you're not finding it fun, but
for me, it's
it
the
is
hype,
relentless action.
the hype of the film, the stunt hype of this. They love to hype the stunts, right?
Well, the one stunt in particular.
The one where he drives a motorcycle off the cliff.
Yeah.
But for a year,
is
you're
not
watching
by far
that.
my favorite.
Yeah,
but-
and it's just like, what? He dives into the airport. I mean, it's stupid. And the timing and all that. He ends up jumping into the train right when he has to jump in, knock somebody down, is about to kill her. It just gets, those movies are, especially number 2, like the John Woo version. I mean, these
that's a
movies
John Woo movie, yeah.
They're outrageous. But I just felt like I think it's a bit of a fatigue on this one. And now the second half of this one,
they delayed it.
They delayed it, and they're not going to call it part 2.
It's
They're
not
gonna
that. It's not part 2.
Yeah,
It's going to be called Part 2.
I think that's the other mistake they made to let you know that, hey, this is only part 1, because that kind of takes some of the thrill out of it too. So
yeah, it did. It really underperformed at the box office. I remember it.
Yeah, it did.
I just found it uncompelling. I mean, I was liking it as, it was carrying me along, but I just didn't have the joy you often have in a movie.
Well, the bad guy, the villain, is stupid AI.
Yeah,
it can be anybody. It can say anything. It can do anything. I mean,
it throws great parties though.
You go back to that first one that Brian De Palma directed with the Pentagon thing on the ropes. It
was 3 action scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a pleasure to watch that stuff. And I think the 5th one, the one that Brad Bird did was
that's
good.
The 4th one, Ghost Protocol. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the one where he's climbing around on the tower in Dubai.
Yeah. And I like the one with the guy that ended up in 2 films, the bad guy that ended up in 2 films. I thought that was.
You're talking about
I love that guy.
Chris McQuarrie did Rogue Nation, then he did Fallout, then he's doing these 2. So he's the first director that's done more than one.
Yeah.
With
I
Tom
liked
Cruise,
Fallout with Henry Cavill. I liked Fallout.
I mean, that's pretty much peak Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
I clearly enjoyed Dead Reckoning more than you guys did, but Fallout
I love Dead
is
Reckoning.
pretty. Oh, okay. Yeah,
I just thought the bad guy was just kind of stupid. But those movies, they're all the same. They're a thread of a plot,
the locations
tied together by huge action pieces.
Well, they come up with the action first, but they somehow manage to go into production without even having it all finished.
Yeah,
and
they write in between.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
but even the car
handle
chase
it.
when
You
he's
can't
driving the
tell.
car, I mean, those are some great scenes. And
Well,
he's
that whole
it's really
Rome,
all about family.
Oh God,
That's-
You know,
the whole Rome car chase was probably my favorite action scene because it's exhilarating, it's funny. what's her name? Palm Clementif as the villain driving the armored car is
That's
just
Mantis, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's so
That
entertaining
is a
to
very
watch.
good sequence. And, it's
And there's lots of,
fun
and
to
then like
watch.
even the most flashy action sequences, like that big fight in the narrow alley,
Right.
is great. And that's just like what, 3 stunt people.
Right.
And it's really good. I enjoyed it. I will look forward to watching the next one. If it doesn't come out for an extra year, that's okay. Like I'm not dying to know
Right.
the rest of the story kind of thing, but I enjoyed it. So.
Yeah.
Did Cruise strike you as odd or like suddenly old? That's what it was really.
I didn't. I mean, he
suddenly
is.
the guy's my age.
He's 60.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but
I mean,
he looked and felt so much younger. And
listen, I wish I looked like that. Okay, at 60 years old.
oh no,
okay.
I'd rather look like me.
I mean,
Of
the
course
guy,
we would
and he
look like
does
that.
almost. I don't know if he does all his stunts, but he does 95% of his stunts. When he's driving that cart to Rome, it's him.
Yeah.
No
he's
question.
right.
Dude
He was
loves to
flying
make
helicopters
movies.
and
He's
fall
really-
out.
he's a movie star. We've said
Flying
this all the time.
helicopters.
That is one of my favorite things, that the stories that came out of Top Gun Maverick is, he's a pilot.
Yeah.
And so the Navy was like, we'll lease you our jets for $18,000 an hour. And he's like, okay, great. We have a deal. I am really excited to fly them. And they said, no, you are not flying a $30 million attack fighter. But I mean, he could. I mean,
Yeah.
he could do those
He
things. He
absolutely
learns
could.
those things.
Henry Fonda could.
Yeah, but I mean, like the guy is movies. It's a certain
Yeah.
kind of movies,
Yeah.
but he is movies.
Yeah,
He
look, I
clearly,
love
he
when I
loves
saw
it, and
Maverick.
it's
He
great.
comes up at the beginning and
Yeah.
says, "Hey, thanks for coming." You know,
No,
that's
he's a
fun.
movie
Yeah.
star.
Love
He's
that.
a movie
That's just-
star.
All
It
right,
felt so good.
Drew. What did you
Well,
watch?
I
Other than
obviously
Oppenheimer?
didn't have a lot of time to watch a lot of other stuff because I watched Oppenheimer. That was kind of long. Still watching Catfish with Kelly. I'm enjoying The Floor, which is Rob Lowe's new primetime game show, which is silly and kind of fun. Abbott Elementary is back. I watched the Raid movies, but I had kind of a unintentional biopic music weekend. I saw This Is Me Now, which is the Jennifer Lopez movie that's on Prime about her new album.
I was avoiding that.
Yeah, it looks amazing. There's some really neat stuff in it, but it's kind of like there's Beyonce's Lemonade, which is spectacular. There's Janelle Monáe's Dirty Computer, which is excellent. And then quite a bit further down is J-Lo's This Is Me Now. It looks neat. So if you want to see neat stuff, that's fine. But all of her songs kind of sound the same to me. And it is about how, like, why do I keep getting married? So there's a little more personal insight than I expected.
That was the
Really?
best Super Bowl
That would
commercial.
appeal to
though.
anyone here.
That was
yeah,
the best
the
Super
Ben
Bowl
Affleck
commercial.
one.
You
Yeah.
know,
So-
those jumpsuits are selling out, by the way.
Are they?
Oh my God. But I went to the movie theater and I saw Bob Marley, One Love.
Oh, how was it?
It's a nice movie. I don't think it really tells you a lot about Bob Marley, who I didn't know a lot about. It covers his life from like 77 through 76 through 78. So he was, involved in, some of the very violent politics without being a politician, and a divisive force, and some of the people were trying to kill. And a lot of it is very traditional biopic, very different from Oppenheimer. So it was kind of neat to see those both in the same weekend. It does have flashbacks and things, but it kind of goes along, and I thought it was nice. I mean, the music is great music, and
Did the actor do their own singing?
He did some of it, yeah, and that's good. I can't really imagine seeing it again. It was fine, and we saw it, and we were going to see it on Saturday, and it sold out. So we ended up seeing it on Monday. I was off work, and it was still pretty well attended. It made a chunk of cash this weekend. It beat Madam
Yeah,
Web.
it was a big surprise hit.
Yeah, very big surprise.
He
hit.
was one
And
of the
What was
Kens.
that film that flopped? Madam Web.
Yeah, that's the Dakota Johnson Spider-Man.
Sorry, I was-
That guy was
Sony hates themselves.
guy playing Bob Marley was one of the Kens as well.
Yes, he was one of the Kens. He was in the second season of the OA. He's good. I look forward to seeing more of him. But the movie, it was fine.
Yeah, that trailer's
there's nothing
been
wrong
out
with
for
that.
years. Like,
Yeah.
I can
What?
remember seeing that 2 years ago, I think.
For this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I
I've been
didn't
seeing
remember that. I
One
didn't
Love
know
for
that.
a long time.
That's interesting.
I'm
All right,
glad.
John.
I'm glad that movie.
It doesn't really tell you anything about Rastafarianism. There's a lot about like Jah's going to protect us and things like that. But I mean, Rastafarianism is very specifically anti-white, anti-colonial, all this kind of stuff, which you'd think would be addressed more since it's such a central part of his life. But they really are just like, the politics is over here, and there's violence, and people did try to kill him, and there is violence in the movie, but he's, he made music to try to bring people together, and that's nice, but I don't know that it's the whole story.
All right, John.
What did I watch? On President's Day, TBS had a Seinfeld marathon. So I watched about 10 episodes. And I have to tell you, I still think it's the funniest show that's ever been on TV. Every episode, I think there was 180 episodes. Every episode has something in it that people remember. And you think about how it affected culture with the language, the yada, 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 the master your domain. We'll probably never see another show like that because also, as I'm watching it, you realize they could never do some of the episodes that they did on that show in today's environment. You just couldn't do it, which is kind of sad because it is such a funny show about four unlikable people. I mean, they really are. They're not very nice people, and people love that show. And he also ended on top. They were going to pay him a truckload of money to do another season, and he said, "Nope, I'm just going to end it here while we're on top." And then I'm going to
sell it into syndication and make way more money than that.
But
so
he made sure everybody made money.
Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I watch it sporadically.
Do you
but
not like that one?
It's all right. It's
Debbie's
right.
binging
It's
it.
too. It's a little too anti me. So that's why I don't watch it.
It makes sense.
That's why. I mean, it's the truth, Ralph. I don't need to be bashed all the time.
Here's the thing.
They are. Seinfeld didn't do that. And
did you see? But they did a whole Seinfeld reunion on that one.
I saw that. Okay. I did watch that.
Funny
and
thing
it was
is,
funny.
John, my opinion on him like bashing people is sort of like when he's such a horrible person, selfish, narcissistic person. When he bashes someone, I already feel like, I don't want to be on this guy's side anyway.
No, he is. In fact, I just watched something like not the 10 worst insults he did, but the 10 most uncomfortable things he did. And they were really funny. Like the Holocaust.
How do you narrow that down?
The Holocaust, he went to that party.
He brought the survivor.
He brought the survivor.
He brought Kobe. That was great.
So, but Seinfeld, it's just, I don't know. I've seen each episode so many times and I still laugh. Like that one when George pulled the golf ball out of the whale. And is it a Titleist? It's just a funny show. And I watched like 10 episodes in a row and was laughing like I watched it.
I never get into Seinfeld. That's so
funny.
I
love it. I love the show.
There's an episode we could do on Indian Cinemaniacs. About dipping your bald head in oil.
Yeah,
that's
the reverse.
But I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. That guy's a genius. So
that's funny.
Well, he is. I mean, that's why Seinfeld was so successful too while he was there.
Yeah. So
all
right. Nice job. All right,
Your
Oppenheimer.
Enthusiasm is Seinfeld is the real Seinfeld. The darker,
more
on
much darker. Yeah.
And hopefully it'll have a better finale.
Well, that's why they did the Curb Your Enthusiasm one, because they all realized how bad the finale was, and it was awful.
It was terrible.
Yeah,
it's fun. They might do it again on this season. They might see him again on this.
That I would love to see.
Oh, okay.
So
anytime you get those guys together,
it's great. All right, so next week is our Indian Cinemaniacs. What's the film we're doing?
Death in Gunji.
Death in Gunji.
Or Gunji,
and then the following week after that will be whatever. Drew, you got a week. You've got time now if you want to pick.
Well, Oppenheimer is so long, we might just do it again. Just to make sure we didn't miss anything.
I tell you, second viewing, you might change your mind like I did. So we'll see.
I'll let you guys know.
So, all right. Well, everybody have a safe week, and we'll see you for the next one.
Top of the world. Top of the world.
But all right.